Previously on Sailing Avocet.
Angel Island sure was an awesome time, but it is time to move on. So we are just plowing up the coast. Well, it feels like up the coast, but we're just going on a really close haul straight towards Sausalito. Might be able to get there on one tack.
During the raft up in Clipper Cove, our new friend Steve gave us all the details on this anchorage. Most importantly, where to set the hook. Richardson Bay is a large bay with loose mud holding and an average depth of 20 feet. When looking for a spot to set your hook, it's best to keep in mind that the bay is subject to a 6-foot tidal swing, so be sure to keep plenty of space between you and your neighbor. Out of all the anchorages in the San Francisco Bay, this one is definitely on the rollier side due to the ferry wakes, but with our flop stopper deployed, we had no trouble sleeping at night.
So 4 years ago, when we were looking for our boat, we found ourselves in Sausalito looking for a boat.
Obviously, Avocet was not here, but we did find another boat that was really, really cool. It was called a Scylla 36, and Chris was convinced that this was the boat.
Well, there's a couple of reasons. It was super cheap, and it was a really cool boat. 36 feet, center cockpit, a lot of things about this boat that I liked. However, the story behind this boat is where it gets kind of weird. I actually put an offer on this boat, had a deposit down that was accepted, and the yacht brokerage that I made this deposit with, that shall not be named, sold the boat out from underneath us.
So we did not get that boat, and honestly, it's for the best because it was a smoker boat and the inside was covered with tar. We would have had to completely rip out everything and start over. Everything happens for a reason, but as two very young, naive 20-year-olds, we were very, very upset.
It's one of the things you just don't do as a yacht broker is sell a boat out from under someone who already has a deposit down.
And we were kids.
We were kids, the boat was cheap, everything happens for a reason. It's not a big deal, but it's just more or less
it's a funny story. And as we are walking the docks of Sausalito, we are reminded of that story. And one of the boats we actually looked at from the same brokerage is still here.
Still here.
4 years later.
Anyways, it all happens for a reason, but it's just fun to watch in hindsight.
Well, we are here to prove them wrong.
Yep.
Visiting Sausalito, California will make you feel like you have been transported to the other side of the world. The city is built like those you may find in Spain or Italy along the Mediterranean Sea, with tiered streets and houses overlooking the bay views.
The streets are full of eateries that range from cheap bites to gourmet, and more ice cream shops than there probably should be. So there's something for everybody.
Boats have always been a thing here in Sausalito. Back when the city was first established, it was known as a fishing village where Portuguese and Italian fishers started their businesses, many of which have descendants that are still participating in the industry today. Later on, Sausalito became home to a shipbuilding center known as Marinship, a bustling shipyard that built much-needed ships for the war effort during World War II. The operation employed thousands of people and launched 15 Liberty ships as well as 78 tankers in nearly 3 years. Following the end of the war, the Bayside town became a refuge for artists and the wealthy. However, you don't have to be rich to call this place home, you just have to own a boat. Historically, the free-spirited boat dwellers that share the multi-million-dollar view with the wealthy on land have been nicknamed the Anchorouts, and recently gained publicity through multiple news reports regarding the local government's attempts to make anchorouts illegal.
A new plan to deal with the floating homes off Sausalito and Tiburon.
Officials could give those owners a safe place to keep their boats while preserving their lifestyle.
Some people are very happy out there. Some people certainly would take shelter. Homelessness is a big issue now, and this group of people are homeless but not boatless.
Boats should not be there for years and years and years, especially boats that aren't seaworthy.
Larry Goldsband, Executive Director of the Bay Conservation and Development Commission, the agency that oversees everything on and in the bay, says that after decades of turning a blind eye, the state and the Richardson Bay Regional Agency want to see all these boats that have been anchored in the bay for years gone.
Although Harbor Patrol has been cracking down on anchorouts in the bay, we had no real issues with our stay that lasted a bit longer than the permitted 72 hours, but still recommend that you proceed with caution.
Living on a boat doesn't mean we get to escape mundane chores. On the contrary, it means we have to be a little bit more creative on how we accomplish them. So when our dirty clothes hamper was full and our fridge was empty, we knew it was time to check some things off our to-do list.
Time to do laundry.
From the dinghy dock, it was only a 1-mile walk to Sunshine Laundromat, where we washed and dried all of our laundry for $10.
After half a month of sailing, our clothes, sheets, and towels were pretty salty, so we were stoked to have the opportunity to clean them. With a full bag of clean laundry, we headed to the market to restock on fruits and veggies. There were not a lot of options within walking distance, and it was pretty pricey, but we got what we needed for the time being.
Laundry day is complete. We have clean laundry, we have groceries, and we are stoked.
One bag after another was loaded into the dinghy before we shoved off and made our way back to the mothership to put clean sheets on the bed and cook a delicious dinner with our fresh produce. A great way to end a successful day. Back in 2020, in between boat projects, we had the opportunity to chat with Benjamin from Out the Gate Sailing Podcast to discuss our boat, projects, and of course our plan, which has changed significantly since then. Fast forward to October of 2022, we had another opportunity to meet with Ben, this time in person, aboard Avocet for a follow-up interview.
As you just heard, Chris is a videographer and Marissa is a writer. So their YouTube videos are gorgeous and well scripted. Their latest video, posted about a week ago, is all about their time here in San Francisco Bay, specifically Treasure Island, and they have more to come.
After we wrapped, Ben offered to drive us to the local West Marine so we could buy a trip line buoy to replace the upcycled soy sauce bottle we had been using since we arrived in the bay. We also grabbed a 2-gallon gas tank and more oil rags to replace the ones we use coming up the coast.
After our shopping trip, Ben dropped us off at what he swore was the best sandwich shop ever. And although we were skeptical, we'd have to agree.
What do you think?
Good.
It's a very good sandwich.
While anchored in Richardson Bay, we had the opportunity to meet up with Ashley, an old friend of mine from college who moved to the bay to pursue her passion for flying. When she saw that Chris and I were in the area, she asked if we would be interested in starring in her company's safety video and trade for 2 flights over the bay. And how could we pass that up?
Before our flight, we had the opportunity to chat with our seaplane pilot about what to expect.
So my name is Daniel Law. I am a de Havilland Beaver pilot here at Seaplane Adventures. I became a seaplane pilot about a year ago. I was out doing training in Florida, and I grew up here at the base. You know, everyone I know who was my mentor, they're all seaplane pilots. And I've always worked on the water. I've always wanted to work on the water. And it's pretty rare that anyone gets a job in float flying, just because it takes, 5 hours to get the license, but insurance is gonna want 100 or so hours. Came back here, my boss had no one else, there's not any seaplane pilots in the area. So I told him, hey, put me in the right seat and build me up, and that's what we did, and eventually started flying here. Seaplane Adventures has been here for over 75 years. We operate 2 de Havilland Beavers. Ours are from 1951 to 1957, and it's a beautiful aircraft. Up in the backcountry in Alaska, it's pretty much the pickup truck. In a normal airplane, they give you this beautiful thing called a runway with weather, a windsock, services. In a seaplane, we're on our own. And what I like about seaplane flying is it's where creativity meets flying. So on the water, we're a sailboat. We're a huge weather vane. any way the wind's coming, that plane, you pull the power back, it wants to point directly into the wind. So for us, we have to learn how to overcome that. It's a lot of attitude flying. You know, you set the attitude of the plane. People always come in, they ask, what speed do you leave the water at? And I say, hey, if you could tell me, that would be great. I have no clue myself. It's whenever the plane wants to leave the water. Well, I think people would love Seaplane Adventures is it's just a new perspective. And if you're like me, you don't like spending, 2-3 days walking around the streets of San Francisco. I mean, they're hilly, you get your steps in, but it takes up a lot of time. Flight seeing tours, you see everything. And the people who are flying them, they know everything about the city. So what I think is awesome is I take people, I bring them on the plane, and I get to show them the whole area. We fly over parts that normally you wouldn't really see, and we fly over the stuff that, everyone sees, the Golden Gate Bridge out there. Oh yeah, so I can point out, hey, there's the Marin Headlands, the best place to go view the bridge, other than in the airplane. We're the only sea base in California, so it's a very, very unique tour, very unique experience, and taking off from the water is something else. It's cool.
Hi, I'm Marissa from Seaplane and Aero Adventures, and today I'll be walking you through the pre-flight safety briefing.
Although it was super weird to be filming with someone other than Chris, it was a fun day creating this video with JP from the Serrani Agency, and we're pretty stoked on the result.
And that's it. Thank you for flying with Seaplane and Aero Adventures. We hope you enjoy your flight.
As they say in the film industry, that's a wrap on our time in Richardson Bay.
With our sails full of wind and our next anchorage in sight, we can't wait to share what's next on Sailing Avocet.